While many expect Africa's workforce to remain anchored in traditional jobs, the continent is shifting at breakneck speed toward a future where digital platforms are transforming how millions work, earn, and build their lives. By 2026, experts project that up to half of Africa's youth could be engaged in gig or freelance work, a seismic change few saw coming. Recent data reveals that this isn't just a trend in big cities. Rural villages, remote farms, and bustling towns are all being swept up in this new labor revolution. The question is, as Africa's gig economy rises, what does it mean for the future of work, stability, and opportunity across the continent? Before we dig into this transformation, let's connect for a moment. If you're watching, you care about how technology and innovation are rewriting Africa's story. Your support, subscribing, liking, and sharing helps us reach more people who want to understand these changes and be part of the conversation. When you join our community, you're not just an observer. You're helping amplify African voices, insights, and solutions. Hit that subscribe button now and let's shape the future of work in Africa together. Across Africa, a silent but powerful revolution is underway. The gig economy, fueled by digital platforms, is not just changing how people find work. It's redefining what work means. This isn't just about ride-hailing apps or food delivery. It's a sweeping transformation that is challenging the very foundation of employment models that have shaped African societies for generations. The stakes are high, and the impact is being felt in every corner of the continent. To understand how we arrived at this turning point, it's important to look back at the historical context of African labor. For decades, formal employment was the gold standard. Government offices, banks, factories, and farms offered the promise of steady income, social security, and a clear path up the economic ladder. These jobs were often scarce, highly competitive, and concentrated in urban centers. Informal work, street vending, day labor, small-scale trading filled the gaps, but was typically seen as a temporary solution, not a long-term career. But the old order is being upended by a perfect storm of technological, demographic, and cultural forces. In just over a decade, the proliferation of smartphones and affordable internet has put powerful digital tools in the hands of millions. Recent reports show that smartphone penetration in Africa has soared, and mobile money services like m-pesa and MTN's Momo have revolutionized financial inclusion, allowing even the unbanked to participate in the digital economy. This technological leap has created a new ecosystem where work is fragmented, flexible, and often mediated by algorithms. Today, millions of Africans are logging into platforms that connect them with tasks ranging from graphic design and data entry to plumbing, tutoring, and agricultural drone piloting. The gig economy is no longer a fringe phenomenon. It's becoming a central pillar of Africa's economic future, especially among the continent's youth. With over 60% of Africa's population under the age of 25, and with formal job creation lagging far behind population growth, the gig economy is emerging as a lifeline for young people facing high unemployment and limited prospects. What's driving this surge? The answer lies in a convergence of factors. First, the explosion of mobile technology has democratized access to work opportunities. Internet access, while still uneven, is expanding rapidly, particularly in urban centers. Mobile money platforms have made it possible for workers to receive payments, pay bills, and manage their earnings securely, even in areas where traditional banks are absent. Second, Africa's demographic reality is impossible to ignore. Every year, millions of new job seekers enter the labor market, far outpacing the number of formal jobs created by governments and traditional businesses. The gig economy, with its promise of flexibility and low barriers to entry, offers a crucial safety valve for this demographic pressure. Third, there's a profound cultural shift underway. For many Africans, especially in cities, the idea of a single lifelong career is giving way to a more fluid, entrepreneurial mindset. People are piecing together income from multiple sources, learning new skills on the fly, and embracing the freedom to choose when and how they work. This is not just a response to necessity, it's a reimagining of what work can mean in the digital age. Digital platforms are at the heart of this transformation. While global giants like Upwork and Remote Tasks connect African freelancers to clients around the world, a new generation of homegrown platforms is emerging to meet local needs. In Kenya, platforms like Lynk match skilled tradespeople with customers seeking everything from plumbing repairs to yoga instruction. In Nigeria, Gokada and Eden Life are redefining logistics and home services. South Africa's sweepsouth has created new opportunities for domestic workers, while Ghana's agrocenta is helping farmers access markets and financial services. Recent data shows that over 4.8 million Africans are leveraging digital platforms for gig work across diverse sectors, and the number is rising fast. These platforms are more than just marketplaces. They're engines of economic inclusion. They allow people to monetize skills that might otherwise go untapped, from coding and copywriting to tailoring and teaching. They also create new pathways for women who have historically faced barriers to formal employment. Reports indicate that the gig economy is supporting increased workforce participation rates among African women, especially in sectors like online retail, tutoring, and creative services. But the rise of the gig economy is not without its shadows. For every story of empowerment, there are stories of precarity and exploitation. Most gig workers in Africa operate without formal contracts, social protections, or stable incomes. They face irregular assignments, delayed payments, and the constant risk of being deactivated by platforms with little recourse. Health insurance, paid leave, and retirement benefits are rare luxuries. The lack of legal protections leaves many vulnerable to abuse and discrimination. Observers note that the majority of African gig workers, except those in high-skilled online roles, earn low and unpredictable wages. In rural areas, where opportunities are scarcer and digital infrastructure weaker, the risks are even greater. Women, despite their growing participation, often face persistent disadvantages and barriers to accessing the most lucrative gigs. According to recent studies, 39% of gig workers in Africa are short-lived earners with sporadic income, while the majority experience irregular or unstable earning patterns, and only a small minority earn income regularly throughout the year. This duality, empowerment on one hand, exploitation on the other, is at the heart of the gig economy's story in Africa. It's a story of possibility and peril, innovation and inequality, freedom and fragility. To grasp the full impact, we need to look beyond the cities. While urban centers like Lagos, Nairobi, and Johannesburg are hotbeds of gig activity, the revolution is quietly spreading to rural Africa. In Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, gig platforms are reaching remote communities, offering income opportunities where traditional jobs are scarce. In rural Cameroon, the intersection of digital transformation and declining agrarian economies has made gig work a critical source of alternative employment. Platform operators report a higher share of micro-earners in rural areas and small towns, indicating gig work is providing income opportunities where traditional jobs are scarce. One of the most intriguing developments is the rise of agricultural gig platforms. Digital marketplaces are helping smallholder farmers sell their produce directly to buyers, bypassing exploitative middlemen. Drone services are being used to monitor crops, apply fertilizers, and even deliver supplies to hard-to-reach areas. These innovations are not just boosting productivity, they're transforming the very nature of rural work. For example, in Ghana, agrocenta's digital platform connects farmers to buyers and financial services, while in Kenya, startups are piloting drone-based services for crop monitoring and pest control. These solutions are helping small-scale farmers overcome barriers to participating in agricultural value chains and increasing efficiency and transparency in African agriculture. But unlocking the full potential of the rural gig economy requires more than just technology. Infrastructure remains a major barrier. Only about 38% of Africans currently have reliable internet access, and high mobile broadband costs put digital work out of reach for many. Expanding connectivity and reducing costs are essential if the gig economy is to bridge, rather than widen, the urban-rural divide. Mobile money is another game changer. In 2023 alone, mobile money services in Africa processed over $1.1 trillion in transactions. For gig workers, especially those without access to traditional banks, these platforms are lifelines. They enable instant, secure payments, support cross-border remittances, and even create new jobs as mobile money agents in remote areas. The use of mobile phones increases the likelihood of being financially included, allowing the previously unbanked to perform financial transactions and participate in the digital economy. As digital platforms spread, they're not just changing how people work, they're accelerating economic growth. Small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, are the backbone of Africa's economies. They account for the majority of businesses and employ most of the workforce. But SMEs often struggle to find affordable, flexible labor and specialized skills. The gig economy is filling this gap. By tapping into a pool of on-demand workers, SMEs can scale operations quickly, access expertise as needed, and weather economic shocks more effectively. During periods of crisis, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, gig work provided crucial income for both workers and businesses, helping to cushion the impact of lockdowns and layoffs. Recent reports highlight that gig work offers SMEs increased flexibility to scale operations and access specialized skills as needed, supporting new business startups and development, particularly among SMEs. Skill development is another unexpected benefit. Gig platforms are fostering new forms of informal education and upskilling. Workers on platforms like Lynk gain hands-on experience in trades ranging from electrical work to hair care. Digital gigs encourage the acquisition of transferable skills, communication, problem-solving, time management, that can be leveraged across multiple job types. For young Africans, gig work is becoming a training ground for the future, even as it exposes gaps in formal education and digital literacy. African governments are encouraged to support gig workers with education and skills training to maximize productivity and efficiency gains from digital platforms. Investment is pouring into the sector. According to a 2023 report by the Oxford Internet Institute, Africa's gig economy workforce is growing at an annual rate of 41%, outpacing most other regions. Gig economy companies in sub-Saharan Africa raised over $410 million in equity funding up to July 2025, with investors backing startups that demonstrate strong traction and sustainable business models. International organizations like Google and the International Finance Corporation are supporting African entrepreneurs, highlighting the continent's potential as a hub for digital innovation. Yet, the gig economy's contribution to Africa's GDP remains modest compared to its vast informal sector. While informal workers make up about 85% of Africa's workforce, gig workers represent a smaller, though rapidly growing, proportion. The formal sector is still more productive, generating 4 to 5 times more output per worker than the informal sector. But the lines are blurring as gig work increasingly complements formal employment and provides a stepping stone to better opportunities. The regulatory landscape is struggling to keep pace. African governments are beginning to recognize the need for stronger protections for gig workers. Ghana is positioning itself as a leader in gig economy regulation, aiming to align with international labor organization standards. South Africa's labor laws provide some protections, but they're not fully adapted to the realities of platform-based work. Policy recommendations emphasize the importance of digital literacy programs, investment in infrastructure, and coordinated reforms across finance, education, and employment. One of the biggest challenges is enforcement. Existing labor laws are often poorly implemented, leaving gig workers with limited recourse in disputes. As the sector expands, the urgency for regulatory action grows. Governments face a delicate balancing act, encouraging innovation and job creation while safeguarding worker rights and preventing exploitation. Reports indicate that African governments are expected to introduce stronger protections for gig workers as the sector expands, prompting firms to revise contract terms and address legal gaps. Looking ahead to 2026, the projections are both exciting and sobering. The gig economy is expected to become a dominant force in African labor markets, with a significant share of the workforce engaging in gig or freelance work. Digital economies could add up to $712 billion to Africa's GDP by 2030, according to World Bank estimates. But the benefits will not be evenly distributed. Without targeted interventions to bridge the digital divide, promote income stability, and support skill development, the gig economy risks entrenching existing inequalities. To understand the future, it's essential to break down the key trends and challenges shaping Africa's gig-powered workforce. First, the transformation of traditional employment models. The old paradigm of stable, long-term jobs is giving way to a more fragmented, project-based approach. This shift is not unique to Africa, but it's playing out with particular intensity on the continent. The Fourth Industrial Revolution, with its emphasis on digital skills and remote work, is accelerating the pace of change. African workers are moving from classical business process outsourcing to IT-enabled services and platform-based labor, often juggling multiple gigs to make ends meet. This new model offers greater autonomy and discretion, but it also reduces bargaining power and economic security. Workers are more exposed to market fluctuations, platform policies, and technological disruptions. The need for future-ready education, critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence is more urgent than ever. Governments, educators, and businesses must collaborate to equip workers with the skills needed to thrive in a digital economy. Second, the opportunities and challenges for African workers. The gig economy is opening doors for millions, especially young people, women, and those in remote areas. It's fostering entrepreneurship, enabling people to monetize diverse skills, and creating new pathways to financial inclusion. But it's also exposing workers to new risks, unstable incomes, lack of benefits, and limited legal protections. Reports indicate that 39% of gig workers in Africa are short-lived earners with sporadic income, while the majority experience irregular or unstable earning patterns. Only a small minority earn income regularly throughout the year. The absence of formal contracts and social safety nets leaves many vulnerable to shocks and exploitation. Third, the urban and rural impact of gig work. While cities remain the epicenter of digital labor, rural Africa is not being left behind. Gig platforms are reaching into villages and small towns, offering micro-earning opportunities and transforming agricultural economies. In rural Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa, gig workers are adapting to new social and economic realities, navigating identity regulation and community expectations. Agricultural gig platforms are particularly promising. They're helping small-scale farmers access markets, adopt digital tools, and increase productivity. Drone services, e-commerce platforms, and cloud-driven solutions are revolutionizing traditional farming practices, making agriculture more efficient and transparent. But the digital divide remains a formidable obstacle. Expanding internet access, reducing costs, and investing in digital infrastructure are essential to unlocking rural potential. Fourth, skill development and economic acceleration. The gig economy is not just about earning a living, it's about building skills and capabilities. Workers are gaining practical experience, learning to navigate digital platforms, and developing soft skills that are increasingly valuable in the modern economy. Informal education and upskilling are happening organically as people adapt to the demands of gig work. Governments and businesses have a role to play in supporting this process. Digital literacy programs, vocational training, and access to online resources can help workers maximize their potential and transition to higher value opportunities. The pandemic has underscored the importance of adaptability and continuous learning as workers pivot to new roles and industries in response to shifting demand. Fifth, the policy and regulatory responses. The rapid growth of the gig economy has outpaced the development of appropriate legal frameworks. African governments are beginning to catch up, introducing reforms to protect gig workers and promote sustainable growth. Policy recommendations include promoting income stability, maintaining flexibility, increasing digital literacy, and bridging the technological divide. Coordinated reforms across finance, education, and employment policies are needed to create an enabling environment for gig work. Enforcement remains a challenge, but the momentum for change is building. As the sector matures, we can expect to see more robust protections, better working conditions, and greater recognition of gig workers' contributions. Sixth, future projections for 2026. By then, the gig economy is expected to be a major driver of employment and economic growth in Africa. The percentage of workers engaged in gig work will continue to rise, especially among youth and women. Digital platforms will become even more diverse, catering to a wider range of skills and industries. But the risks will persist. Without proactive policies and investments, the gig economy could exacerbate inequalities, leaving the most vulnerable behind. The challenge for African leaders is to harness the potential of digital labor while ensuring that the benefits are broadly shared. At the heart of this transformation is a new social contract. The relationship between workers, employers, and the state is being renegotiated in real time. Traditional employment models will need to adapt and coexist with a pervasive gig workforce. Social protections, benefits, and rights must be reimagined for a world where work is fluid, decentralized, and often invisible. Observers note that the gig economy is not a panacea. It cannot replace the need for formal job creation, industrial development, or robust public services, but it can complement these efforts, providing meaningful engagement with the formal sector and helping to build a more dynamic, resilient workforce. To deepen our understanding, let's examine some regional and sector-specific case studies that illustrate the diverse ways the gig economy is reshaping Africa. In East Africa, Kenya stands out as a leader in digital innovation. Nairobi, often called Silicon Savannah, is home to a thriving ecosystem of tech startups and gig platforms. Companies like Lynk and Sendi have created thousands of jobs by connecting workers to clients in real time. The success of mobile money platforms like m-pesa has made it possible for even the smallest entrepreneurs to participate in the digital economy. In rural Kenya, gig platforms are helping farmers access new markets, while drone services are being piloted to increase agricultural productivity and reduce crop losses. In West Africa, Nigeria's gig economy is booming, driven by a youthful population and a vibrant tech scene. Platforms like Gokada and Eden Life are redefining logistics and home services, while freelance marketplaces connect Nigerian professionals to clients around the world. Despite infrastructure challenges and regulatory uncertainty, Nigeria's gig workers are finding creative ways to overcome obstacles and build sustainable livelihoods. In Southern Africa, South Africa's gig economy is marked by both opportunity and tension. Platforms like sweepsouth have created new opportunities for domestic workers, but the sector has also faced criticism over working conditions and lack of protections. The government has begun to address these issues, but enforcement remains a challenge. South Africa's experience highlights the need for balanced regulation that supports innovation while safeguarding worker rights. In Francophone Africa, countries like Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire are seeing the emergence of local gig platforms tailored to regional needs. These platforms are helping to bridge linguistic and cultural divides, creating new opportunities for workers who might otherwise be excluded from the digital economy. The gig economy is also having a profound impact on specific demographics. For women, gig work offers unprecedented flexibility and the chance to earn income while balancing family responsibilities. However, women often face barriers to accessing the most lucrative gigs and are more likely to be concentrated in lower-paying sectors. Reports indicate that targeted interventions, such as digital literacy training and access to affordable devices, can help close these gaps and promote greater gender equity in the gig economy. For youth, the gig economy is both a lifeline and a challenge. Young people are the most likely to embrace digital platforms, but they also face intense competition, unstable incomes, and limited access to social protections. Skill development programs, mentorship, and access to affordable internet are critical to helping youth succeed in the gig economy. For rural communities, gig platforms are providing new sources of income and helping to diversify local economies. However, the digital divide remains a significant barrier, with many rural areas lacking reliable internet access and affordable devices. Investment in infrastructure and targeted support for rural gig workers are essential to ensuring that the benefits of the gig economy are shared broadly. The impact of the gig economy is also being felt in the education sector. As more Africans turn to gig work, there is growing demand for digital literacy and vocational training. Governments and private sector partners are investing in programs to help workers acquire the skills needed to succeed in the digital economy. These efforts are helping to build a more adaptable, future-ready workforce. At the same time, the gig economy is raising important questions about the future of work and social protection in Africa. As more people move away from traditional employment, there is a pressing need to rethink social safety nets, retirement benefits, and health insurance. Policymakers are grappling with how to extend protections to gig workers without stifling innovation or flexibility. Experts recommend a range of policy interventions to support sustainable gig economy growth. These include promoting income stability for gig workers while maintaining flexibility, designing targeted interventions to increase digital literacy, and bridging the technological divide to expand access to gig economy opportunities. Coordinated reforms across finance, education, and employment policies are needed to create an enabling environment for gig work. The gig economy is also attracting significant attention from investors. Local and international investors are pouring capital into African gig startups, recognizing the sector's potential for growth and impact. According to recent data, Africa's gig economy workforce is growing at an annual rate of 41%, outpacing most other regions. Gig economy companies in sub-Saharan Africa raised over $410 million in equity funding up to July 2025, with investors backing startups that demonstrate strong traction and sustainable business models. Despite these positive trends, challenges remain. The quality of jobs created by the gig economy is a major concern, with many workers facing low pay, unstable incomes, and limited protections. There is also a risk that the gig economy could exacerbate existing inequalities, particularly if access to digital platforms remains uneven. Looking to the future, the choices made by governments, businesses, and communities will shape the trajectory of the gig economy in Africa. Will the sector deliver on its promise of empowerment and inclusion, or will it deepen existing divides? The answer will depend on the ability of all stakeholders to work together to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable future of work. As we approach 2026, the gig economy stands at a crossroads. It has the potential to drive economic growth, create new opportunities, and transform lives. But realizing this potential will require bold action, innovative thinking, and a commitment to inclusion and fairness. To further illustrate the complexity and reach of the gig economy, let's take a closer look at how digital transformation is playing out in different regions and sectors. In North Africa, Egypt and Morocco are seeing a surge in tech-enabled gig platforms, especially in creative industries and digital marketing. These countries benefit from relatively higher internet penetration and a growing base of tech-savvy youth. In Egypt, for instance, platforms like Filkedma are connecting skilled tradespeople to urban households, while Moroccan startups are pioneering remote work solutions for the Francophone world. These examples show how regional differences in infrastructure, education, and language shape the contours of the gig economy. Meanwhile, in the Sahel and Central Africa, the expansion of gig work faces unique hurdles. Political instability, limited digital infrastructure, and lower rates of smartphone adoption slow the spread of digital platforms. Yet, even here, innovative solutions are emerging. In Chad and Niger, solar-powered community internet hubs are being piloted to provide rural youth with access to online gig opportunities. These projects, supported by international NGOs and local governments, highlight the importance of tailored interventions that address specific regional challenges. The story of the gig economy in Africa is also a story of adaptation and resilience. Consider the experience of a young woman in rural Tanzania who, after losing her job at a local textile factory, turned to a digital platform to offer tailoring and mending services to clients in nearby towns. Using mobile money for payments and WhatsApp for communication, she rebuilt her livelihood and even expanded her client base beyond her village. Her journey reflects the broader trend of Africans using digital tools to navigate economic uncertainty and seize new opportunities. At the same time, the gig economy is fostering new forms of community and collaboration. In Lagos, gig workers have formed online support networks to share tips, negotiate better rates, and advocate for improved working conditions. These grassroots initiatives are helping to build solidarity among workers who might otherwise feel isolated in a fragmented labor market. Observers note that such networks are increasingly important as gig work becomes a permanent fixture of African economies. The digital transformation driving the gig economy can be compared to the spread of the railway in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Just as railways connected remote regions, facilitated trade, and transformed social relations, digital platforms are linking people across vast distances, creating new markets, and reshaping the social fabric. But as with the railway era, the benefits of this transformation are not distributed evenly. Those with access to technology and education reap the greatest rewards, while others risk being left behind. Skill development remains a central challenge and opportunity. While gig work encourages the acquisition of practical and soft skills, it also exposes gaps in formal education and digital literacy. In South Africa, for example, gig platforms are partnering with vocational schools to offer targeted training in areas like plumbing, electrical work, and digital marketing. These partnerships are helping to bridge the skills gap and prepare workers for the demands of a rapidly changing economy. The economic impact of the gig economy extends beyond individual workers. In Ghana, agrocenta's platform has enabled smallholder farmers to increase their incomes by selling directly to buyers and accessing financial services. This has ripple effects throughout local economies, supporting ancillary businesses and stimulating demand for goods and services. Similarly, in Kenya, the proliferation of gig work in the transportation and logistics sectors has created new opportunities for SMEs, from food delivery startups to last-mile courier services. Yet, the gig economy also presents new risks for social cohesion and worker well-being. The lack of stable employment and social protections can lead to increased stress, financial insecurity, and social fragmentation. Policymakers and community leaders are grappling with how to balance the flexibility and innovation of gig work with the need for security and stability. Some countries are experimenting with portable benefits schemes, allowing gig workers to accrue social protections regardless of the platform or employer. These experiments, though still in their infancy, could serve as models for other regions. The gig economy's influence on gender dynamics is particularly noteworthy. While it offers women greater flexibility and the ability to balance work with family responsibilities, persistent barriers remain. Access to digital devices, reliable internet, and financial services is often lower for women, especially in rural areas. Targeted interventions, such as digital literacy programs for women and the provision of affordable smartphones, are beginning to close these gaps. Reports from organizations like the International Labor Organization suggest that increasing women's participation in the gig economy could have significant positive effects on household incomes and community development. Looking at the broader continental impact, the gig economy is contributing to a shift in how African societies view work, entrepreneurship, and success. The traditional aspiration of securing a stable, long-term job is being replaced by a more dynamic vision of work as a series of projects, collaborations, and learning experiences. This shift is fostering a culture of innovation and adaptability, qualities that will be essential as Africa navigates the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. As we synthesize these trends, it becomes clear that the gig economy is both a product and a driver of Africa's DEIs.